Hey there, Oz.
Hey there, Curtis.
Hey, what movie we got this week?
This week we've got the movie marriage of The Godfather meets Breaking Bad
Yeah.
with a lot of The Jerk. This week we're talking about Scarface.
Ouch.
Oh, welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the podcast where we take a monthly theme. We're inching closer to the end of Ouch Month.
We are. I love this month so much.
It's been a fun month. And yeah, we're here this week to talk about Scarface, though. But I probably think we should introduce ourselves because it's a new year. Some people probably had a resolution of, I'm going to start listening to more movie podcasts this year.
Yes.
So maybe you jumped in right now and you're just not familiar with who we are. But anyway, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
And we definitely want to give a shout out to our beloved Patreon subscribers. Yes. Don S., Aaron A., Mandy K., Melissa L., Colin K., and Lyle M. Thank you guys once and again for your patronage.
And, if for our first-time viewers whose New Year's resolution was to watch more podcasts, I'm sure that resolution included a rider to subscribe to the Patreon of said podcast.
Yeah. I mean, in for what does it go? Like in for something. Like
truer words have never been said.
You're right. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, won't get fooled again.
Won't be fooled again.
That's right. My favorite moment, not that it's like a thing, but of course the passing of Jimmy Carter and his funeral was when the presidents were coming in and George W. Comes and just skips Trump, goes straight to Obama, and then gives him the old belly tap.
Yeah, I saw that too. Hey, what's up, fella?
Yeah, the old boy belly tap.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yep, you could take the man out of Texas, but you can't take the Texas out of the man. Like, and so I did. I got a kick out of that. I'm like, yeah. Yeah,
the old belly tap.
Hey there, partner.
Hey, how you doing there, bud?
It was kind of cool though to see like all of the living presidents.
Yeah, all of them together,
just there, and like just to show politics can be put aside, folks. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. We don't have to be divisive 100% of the time.
But at the same time, it also shows just how ridiculous the dramatic theater of politics is. Like, when the camera's on me specifically, I'm going to spew hate and distrust. Yeah. But it's like, when we're all together, it's like...
belly tap.
Hey. It's like, whatever. So,
well, even number 4 and number 44 and number 45 shared a laugh together.
Yeah. And like... It was fun because like some lip reader, like deaf guy on Reddit who like reads lips professionally is trying to like, and it's like, I don't remember what he said, but of course it was like, he's probably just reading him the funeral program. And so, but yeah, I think that showed a lot of, granted, I don't know Obama, but I think that shows a lot of who he is. It's like, I'm not going to be political here. Like,
don't engage in that right now.
No, this isn't the time nor the place. And so I'll just yuck it up with him for a moment. Although I think a lot too was said when Michelle's like, I'm not going. I'm not sitting in that seating chart. So, all right, but anyway, back to Scarface.
That would, again, we're in Ouch Month. Every movie this month, if that happened to you, it would ouch.
So there's a lot of things in this movie that would hurt.
Yes, there are. But yeah, Scarface. I mean, I guess it's the aftermath of the ouch. Like something happened to you that would have ouched, but it results in the scar.
Exactly. Like it's a story to tell. Oh, how'd you get that scar on your face? Well, let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
I
First of all,
I was going
giant
to pick.
pile of cocaine.
I was going to buy cocaine and
Yeah.
met Gunnar Hansen.
Gunnar Hansen.
All right, my movie this week.
Yes, it is your movie. What a movie! Almost a 3-hour long movie.
Yeah,
and this was and part of me is ashamed to say this. This was my first time seeing Scarface.
It's
I'd
only my
never seen it
second.
before.
Yeah, and my first time it wasn't a planned viewing. I just shuffled on Plex and it popped up, and I'm like, I haven't seen this. Okay, I'll watch it. And
let's watch Scarface. Yeah,
half a work day later, it was over.
I will say we were talking about pre-show just because of the kind of people who celebrate Tony Montana and kind of celebrate the things about this movie that you shouldn't be celebrating.
Right.
Part of me didn't want to like this movie.
That's
fair.
And
there are things to not like, don't get me wrong, but it didn't feel like an almost 3-hour movie. And again, that's probably one of the biggest compliments I can give it, is that this movie told a good story.
Well, and it's crazy because this movie it's packed with talent.
Oh yeah.
But it's, when you look at through the lens of, this movie came out in 83.
So
like, of the talent in the movie, like, Pacino's about the only one that had any cred. De Palma had directed some stuff.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. I've always liked Brian De Palma, but he's extremely talented, but I don't think he ever reached like top shelf.
Yeah.
It's written by Oliver Stone, so it's like it's got fingerprints all over it.
Yeah.
And and the thing a lot of people don't realize, this is a remake.
Yeah.
This is a remake of a movie that came out in 1932, and directed by Howard Hawks, which was early in his career. And so this is a remake with a contemporary spin at the time.
Oliver Stone was also the screenwriter for the Howard Hawks movie.
Exactly. Yeah. Papa De Palma was AP.
Papa De Palma.
Robert Loggia was in that movie too.
Yeah. He was the Scar.
Yeah. And so it's long, but it doesn't feel long. It's got kind of, for a comp that's not like plot driven or anything, it's got kind of a Lord of the Rings-esque feel to it. It's a saga. Yeah. And therefore, because you're chronologically passing time in the movie, it doesn't feel like you're passing all of that time, sitting in your couch.
Yeah, I remember that scene where Tony got pelted with those huge fuzzy arrows.
Yeah.
While he was defending the hobbits,
or when Aragorn shows up and says, "Say hello to my little friend."
That's what he had. The shards of Narsil were forged together into Elendil.
Yeah, I was talking just the hobbits.
Yeah. That would be a mashup: Scarface and Lord of the Rings.
Oh, there's enough scenery for Pacino to chew in that too.
When Gandalf flew out of the eagle, that could also be where they say hello to my little friend.
The world is yours, Frodo.
Gollum could kind of be the you never get high on your own stash. There's some parallels to Gollum in the ring there too.
There definitely is some parallels there. But no, my inclusion of the jerk was, as I'm watching this and I'm thinking, I know another movie of a guy that came from nothing, who rose to prominence and lived in a palace. Yeah, it's him. He's finally somebody.
Somebody hates these cans.
Oh, who's in this movie?
Oh, let's get to the cast. Again, as you mentioned before, directed by De Palma, screenplay by Oliver Stone, also produced by Martin Bregman, who's been involved in a lot of stuff, especially the 70s and 80s. We've got, for better and for worse, Al Pacino, that famous Cuban descent Al Pacino, as Tony Montana.
Which is a perfectly Cuban name.
Yep. We have Stephen Bauer as Manny Ray. Apparently, I was just, of course, as always, looking at things. Apparently, Stephen Bauer was married to Melanie Griffith at one point. Yeah. He's a handsome man.
I was gonna, if you had said, I was going to. He's a good looking guy.
He's Steven Bauer's handsome man. He's good for you, Melanie Griffith.
Like, he's slick. He come out here, and I was like, oh, he's a good looking guy.
He could roll my cigar. I don't know what that means. We've got Michelle Pfeiffer as Elvira. No, not that Elvira.
Right.
But, that would have been great if we did have. Oh, what's her name? Oh my goodness,
Cassandra Wather.
Yes. If we had her as Elvira in character as Elvira.
No, not that Elvira. Instead, this is the this is the Elvira that is cued on by the country band Alabama in their song Elvira.
Alabama. We got Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, again another Cuban descent, as Gina, Tony's sister. We got the aforementioned Robert Loggia, as Frank Lopez, a Miami drug lord. Miriam Colon as Mama Montana.
Mama Montana.
Mama Montana. It's how she's credited by Wikipedia. We have F. Murray Abraham.
Yes.
As Omar. Let's see. We had Paul Chenier as Alejandro Sosa, a Bolivian drug lord. Harris Yulin as was it Detective Bernstein?
Yeah.
It took me a moment to place him. Like, that's the
Ghostbusters
judge from
2.
Ghostbusters 2. The angry for angry sake. Judge from Ghostbusters 2. Let's see. I'll also just mention a couple others. We have Mark Margolis as Shadow.
Yes.
One of Sosa's henchmen. We also have Louis Guzman in a blink and you miss it role.
Yeah.
And also, go ahead.
No, it's the same with Richard Belzer. Like,
that's right. Yeah, Richard Belzer in a blink and you miss it role. We also have Greg Henry, who's been in a lot of James Gunn movies, as kind of a blink and you miss it role as well. So, yeah, it interesting. A lot of names. Some of them big. Some of them will be big.
Because that's one of the things that we get hit with too, is when you are watching an older film. I mean, this movie's 42 years old. 42 years old now.
42 years old.
That, like, we now know Michelle Pfeiffer as an accomplished actress. Yes. She was pretty much a nothing at this point. Like, she was in Grease 2. Like,
that put her on the map.
You know, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, same thing. Just so young and fresh-faced that hadn't really accomplished anything yet. And so, in some ways, this movie was kind of a springboard for him. But at the same time, this movie wasn't big when it came out. Like, it was dealing with a potential X rating. And it just, which is, it's the 80s. And so this much violence and drug use and language, like, it obviously it was in movies, but it still felt, you weren't seeing swear words on television yet.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you got to try to look at it through the lens of the time, because what we're accustomed to now is, this is nothing. Like, this is a Netflix show, you know?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
You know, in your movie marriage.
Yeah. You know, it's like, that was huge for what boundaries it was pushing. I still remember when NYPD Blue showed, like, Michael Chiklis's butt, and people were like, oh, like canceling their TV Guide subscription.
TV Guide, clutching the pearls.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just, but, you know, here we sit now, and when you look back then, you're like, oh, this movie's okay. It's just your typical, but, like, at the time, it was a big deal.
I wonder how much of that was drug use.
I think a lot of it.
I mean, because there was a lot of violence and whatnot, but there really wasn't a lot of. I mean, there wasn't a lot of nudity in this.
No, no. Matter of fact, you could tell they were trying not to. They're at the end when Gina, getting ahead of ourselves, like when she's coming in, you know, and her gown is all but open. It doesn't move any further than it's supposed to.
Yeah, she's taped down.
Yeah, and it's like, and so, like, there was opportunities for it, but there's not. I can't remember any nudity in this movie.
Well, I mean, again, this was, as you mentioned before, think of when this movie came out. This was in 1983, right in the heart of Reagan's first administration. The war on drugs
exactly
had firmly been established, and you got a feeling that the MPAA, again, amongst other things in this movie, but that had to be a factor in the initial X rating.
Yeah, and it's like, there's still tensions with Cuba at this time, and so it's like, oh, how
Yeah,
dare
are
you,
we
universe?
are we glorifying
Yeah,
communism?
yeah,
Like,
and
yeah.
are we rewarding this type of lifestyle?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot too of like the American dream is, rags to riches, and it's like this was showing you a way to do it.
Yep. The American dream.
So,
Apple pie, a hot dog, and a Pepsi.
I mean, he's named after a state. Like
Tony.
Exactly.
North Tonalina.
It's true. So, all right. Well,
all right, let's get to the plot. All 2 hours and 50 minutes of Scarface.
Well, and the crazy thing is like I mentioned, kind of pre-show. It's more of a character study than a plot.
Yeah,
like there's a lot going on.
It's a journey,
exactly. But it's in terms of like depth, there's not a lot. I didn't find anyway. Not a lot of depth.
Yeah, it's more plot. Character and theme than it is plot.
Yeah, there's not. I didn't even find a lot of depth to the characters. Like nobody has an arc. It's aside. Everybody just has kind of a descent.
I felt like I got to know Shadow just as well as any character in any movie.
Yeah, that's true.
What motivates you, Shadow?
It's just being Mark Margolis. Like every character I've ever played is this. We start the movie with one of my favorite things: on-screen text.
Yes, I put that in my plot notes. That's the first thing in all caps: on-screen text. Love it. Treat me like I'm stupid.
Paragraph form.
Yeah.
The one thing missing was that they didn't read it to us, but that's okay. But we
in May 1980.
But we start with on-screen text, and I'll just summarize it. Is Castro in Cuba opened his borders, and it gave people a chance to flee. But the plan was, according to the film, and I haven't looked into the history of it, so I'm just going based on what the film says, is that of the 125,000 people that Castro allowed to flee Cuba for the United States, it was an opportunity for him to to basically empty his prisons, empty his jails. So about 25,000 of those people were criminals.
Yeah. And
they come washing up on the shores of Florida to make a new life for themselves.
I read a little bit about it. Again, I am not going to pretend to be a historian on this topic, but that really happened.
Yeah, it really happened. Yeah. And cut with actual footage of Castro.
There was definitely real footage of him, footage of the event, people loading boats, people departing boats.
Yeah, quite a bit of the beginning of this movie was historical footage.
Yeah.
We really don't get to Pacino until the movie kind of starts. So it's planting that seed of like, hey, this is how we got to where we are. Here are the tensions. And some of these people are criminals.
Yeah.
Tony and Manny are two of those people, along with Angel and Chichi. They're four Cuban ex-convict. They go through the whole, like, you're coming in and we're going to interrogate you to make sure you're on the up and up. And of course, Tony's just lying through his teeth the whole time. Like, I'm clean. Like, you've got, because again, it's not like they sent them over with their like arrest records.
Yeah.
And so I'm just here to make a living, just here to start my life over. Like, and so they all get detained because that's just what happened. The United States tucks them under basically, you're going to go to Miami. You guys are going to live in this fenced in area under the overpass.
Yeah, under the interstate.
Yeah, and it's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them packed in there, and they're in bunks, and that's where they survive. They get word that Miami drug lord Frank Lopez, he's looking for some people to take out.
It was George's dad.
Yeah, it's George Lopez's dad.
Yeah.
It's Javi Lopez's uncle.
Javi Lopez. Goes from a long line of catchers. You don't see it, but Frank was putting down. Yeah, he was calling for some pitches.
Yeah,
at some point
he was looking for something here.
Javi Lopez. I was gonna go J-Lo, but Javi Lopez. He won.
But Frank's looking for somebody to take out a guy within the camp. Turns out this guy's like a former Castro henchman.
Yeah.
And Frank Lopez, being the Miami drug lord that he is, he's looking for somebody on the inside to take this guy out in exchange for some green cards. Enter Tony and Manny. and Angel and Chi-Chi apparently. But anyway, Tony and Manny are the guys.
Yeah.
And so they get the green cards. They're indebted to Frank. They take their green cards to get jobs at like 35 seconds as dishwashers at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Before Tony just, I'm done with this. I'm out.
Yeah.
You know,
half an hour into his first shift.
First dish he washed. I'm not doing this. And Manny, I think, is tried throughout the entire movie to be that voice of reason for him.
Yeah.
Of like, Tony, like he's attempts to be the chain to Tony's pit bull.
I get the impression he appreciates the ambition, but just try to.
Yeah, it's like you can't, but again, the real theme of this movie, we see it on a blimp and we see it on a giant statue in his mansion at the end, is the world is yours. Like, nobody's going to give it to you. You have to take it.
Yes.
And so, again, Manny's like, let's just play ball because I've got looks. I could get places.
Yeah. I got Melanie Griffith.
And Tony's like, but I'm Al Pacino. Like,
yeah, I can't rely on looks alone. I got a Scarface.
Right. You're a lot taller than I am, and you don't have a scar. And we just see, little blips of these guys and their freedom. Really. It's, like Manny he's very girl crazy. Let's go pick up some chicks. We're in America. Look at these American chicks. They're all wearing bikinis. And, it's the 80s. They were.
That's all you were allowed to wear in the 80s.
I remember my grandma's bikini. It was gross.
The bikini was fine.
Yeah, the bikini was great.
Yeah.
Meemaw. Again. And so
she's baking cookies.
Yeah. We'll just go on.
Yeah.
and so I mean, there's just little anecdotal scenes of these guys trying to acclimate, but the bottom line is, and I say this within the context of the movie, they have the stink of being foreign. Yeah. Their language is not crystal clear English. It's accented. It's like they have a look, and nobody's giving them the right time of day because it's America. It's awful, but unfortunately that's what the majority of America does.
Yeah.
And so Tony's got a plan. He's like, I want to meet Frank, so before they get there, they meet with Omar, and Tony's like, I want in on this. Like, I know Frank is a drug lord.
Yeah.
I can make this work. Let's do this.
Initially, Omar offers him a pretty small scale gig. We need you to go like run some marijuana.
Yeah.
And Tony's like, no, like that's small time.
Yeah, he tells him real. Yeah, he tells him the cost, and Tony starts spitting out because he keeps a spreadsheet of he's like, oh, standard is this much, and
Tony QuickBooks Montana.
Exactly. He excels at everything he does.
Nice.
And so, but yeah, he Omar, again, like you said, he's trying to give him something small, just to pacify him.
Yeah.
And Tony's like, no, man. I love Razor Ramon.
I was waiting for Razor. I was a little surprised Razor Ramon was not in.
I just thought about it now, but I wanted to stay away from the Cuban side of things.
Sure.
And so, so he does. He wants bigger. I want bigger. So Omar is like, okay. There are some Colombian cocaine dealers here in Miami that I'm going to give you this money. You go buy the cocaine, and we're good.
Yep.
And so the four of them go. Tony and Angel go in, and it stinks of a setup. I mean, it stinks. Period. Manny and Chi-Chi stay out in the car to oogle women. To
oogle women specifically.
To oogle women. And things get out of hand real quick.
Oh yeah.
Tony and Angel taken at gunpoint, and it's basically, we're going to keep the drugs and we're going to take your money.
And we're going to take Angel's arm and leg.
Yeah. As they're holding, like, they've got a chain wrapped around Tony's neck as they've got Angel in the bathtub as Colombian drug dealer guy. Like, it's such a chilling scene.
Yeah.
Like, almost like pulls back a blanket and takes out a chainsaw. It's just real slow. And it's like, oh, this is so methodical. This guy, Like he's insane.
Yeah.
Fires up the chainsaw, and again, it's all implied. We don't see it.
You don't see it. Although I correct me if I'm wrong. Did I read somewhere that they did film something, but like in the concessions to get rid of the X rating,
which is fair. Like it was
sure.
I'm sure it was pretty brutal. Plus, in '83, granted, you've got prosthetics, and you've got practical effects, but it was a well lit scene. It probably was going to look very fake.
Yeah,
anyway.
It was the middle of the day in this like well lit hotel room or something.
It was gonna look pretty artificial.
I mean, the actor was committed to the bit. He's like, just hack it off.
We never saw him again in the movie.
You're right. I haven't seen him in anything else.
Right. So yeah, they chop Angel up, and
right in front of Tony.
And I love how De Palma keeps cutting back to Manny and Chi-Chi, and but not cutting back to them. I said panning back to them. They'll cut to camera on window of hotel room and then pan back down to Manny just to show like there's a chainsaw running in this hotel room, but outside you can't hear it. Like you've got Miami going on, and so.
It also gives you a sense for like kind of the space within, like the environment, how close they are, and I really appreciated that.
Well, and again, I think it adds another level of terror to show, like you said, this is middle of the day, broad daylight.
Yeah,
like this drug deal is going south in a hurry, and the world's people are still driving around, and so Miami's no different today. That's why Jimmy Butler wents out so bad. I've done my time.
Threatened with a chainsaw one too many times.
Pat Riley's ruthless.
He is. Yeah, at the time of this recording is the whole Jimmy Butler Miami Heat saga.
And so, they chop up Angel, Manny, and Chi-Chi bust in. They end up killing everybody inside and keeping the money and the drugs.
Yeah. I will say one of the guys initially got out of the room.
Yeah, like
guns him down in the middle of the street in front of dozens of people.
Right. Yeah, and just to show that when the governor is off of Tony Montana, he's going to do some pretty insane things. So they bail out of there. They go back. Omar is like, great job. And Tony's like, I want to see Frank. Like he suspects Omar may have set him up, and we need to see Frank. Yeah. And so I'm half hour into the show, and I'm still like my first part of Act 1. So we fast forward. Tony and Manny end up hooking. Frank likes him. As they're sitting in Frank's whatever, like sprawling apartment, home, whatever,
studio apartment,
right? Frank hollers for his wife Elvira, who is Michelle Pfeiffer, as she's coming
busy
down,
hosting a midnight B movie marathon,
right on cable access. Be right there, Frank.
I love the Elvira character so much.
Yeah, like this Elvira or that Elvira.
Yes. No, like because Cassandra. Yeah. She's so
great.
Back to that.
Yeah, she's so great. And so Tony, this is the first time he sees Elvira, and he is smitten.
Yes,
he's in love.
That is one word.
Yes, it is one word. Two syllables.
Is one word.
Two syllables, but one word. But yeah, he is completely taken with Elvira, just purely based on how her back looks coming down the elevator.
Yes. I've never seen anybody look that good in a windowed elevator.
In the apartment. So and that's really the gist of this. Frank likes Tony and Manny. I'm going to put you guys to work. He meets Elvira. Elvira is completely disinterested in really anything Frank is doing. Tony goes to visit his mom because he's got money now. Yeah. Like, Frank paid him and he's got money. And so he goes to see his mom and Gina, who apparently had a much easier path to getting a home. Like Tony gets locked. Tony and Manny get set up in a internment camp, and like, well, we're going to give Mama Montana and Gina an actual home.
Yeah.
Whatever. He goes in. And,
Gina's thrilled to see him.
oh, she hasn't. Yeah, she's so excited to see Tony.
Do you get I mean, it's been years because he even
Yeah.
makes an impression like you were only so big last time I saw you.
Yeah, so they didn't come over the same time Tony came over. They've been over much longer.
Yeah, they probably were refugees or human trafficked over.
Yeah. Tony gives his, you need some money? I got money. You know, I work as a political organizer. Here's $1,000.
Yeah, sure you do.
Yeah,
political organizer.
Mom sees right through it. She's just like, no, I don't trust you. Get out of here. You know, get out of my home. Like, you're not bringing, like, yes, you're my son, but what I've got going on is fine.
She calls him an animal at one point.
Yeah,
like, she knows what he's doing.
Yeah, she knows. Gina she's got stars in her eyes because she loves her brother. She chases him out of the house, and he gives her the money, and she takes it. And Manny's the driver, gets in, and you know, Manny's just like, Tony, she's beautiful, and Tony, being the animal that his mother just said he is, you stay away from her because
she's not for you.
Right. Yeah. There's it's like I could have put Spinal Tap in my movie Marriage because like Pacino was he has an 11. And he's there a lot of this movie.
Yeah, he's constantly at the 11. Yeah.
Yes. So Frank's got a plan. You know, Tony and Manny Tony especially has become more and more important to Frank.
Yes.
He's worked his way up to basically level with Omar.
Yeah.
And he sends Tony and Omar to Bolivia to go meet Cocaine King Alejandro Sosa.
Just got elected into the Cubs Hall of Fame, by the way.
He did. Yeah. Yeah. Sam.
Alejandro Sammy
Sosa. So while they're down there, Tony basically goes over Omar and over Frank.
And Frank, yeah.
And he's trying to get a bigger deal with Sosa without Frank's approval. Of course, Omar's just angry because it's happening right in front of him. He had no idea this was coming. And he's like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. Cut to Sosa's men with Omar in a helicopter above the palace, and they've beaten him up, and they throw him out by a noose and hang him from the helicopter.
Yeah, just for Tony to see.
Yeah, and and Sosa tells Tony that I never trusted him. He's a police informant. Tony's like, I never trusted him either, and it was Sosa's way of saying, "Don't screw with me." Don't screw with me, Tony. And Tony's like, I'm never going to double cross you. Another scene.
I promise. Yeah, I will never die.
Another scene they cut from this. It was a real short clip, but when Tony says he'll never double cross him, De Palma pans to Tony's backside as he's got his fingers crossed behind his back.
Yeah.
They cut that out. They could have kept it, but
and he kind of wiggles them in front of the camera.
Yeah. So
there was a little sound too.
Well, Angelica Pickles did that a lot when she promised Tommy and the other kids.
Tony Montana, or Angelica Pickles as Tony Montana.
And so, so Tony, he's got he's usurped Frank now. Yeah. He's gone straight to the source with Sosa. He's setting up his own cocaine operation. He's no longer Frank's guy.
Yeah.
Bernstein, a detective who Frank has been paying, right? He attempts to extort Tony for that same protection. Because hey, I'm a police officer and I'm not on your payroll.
Yep.
I know about you.
We'll keep you safe from the inside.
Yeah. And so, okay, fine. There's a lot of cut twos because there's just a lot. I mean, it's none of it's like there is the overarching plot of Tony's rise to Scarface. But at the same time, he still needs things to do in the movie. And so everything that happens for a Tony reaction reason.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to Tony's at a club. I'm sure it's probably the Copa. He's at a club.
Cotton Club.
Right. He's at a club. Honestly, we keep cutting to the club because Giorgio Moroder did the score of this movie, and so we have to have places where synth music can be prevalent.
Yes, there you go.
And so cut to club, kind of the crowd parts as Tony sees Gina dancing with somebody out on the floor.
Yeah, Tony didn't like that.
No. Kind of follows him into the bathroom. Gina and this guy go into a stall so they can do cocaine and other things. And Tony follows him and doesn't like it. Kind of roughs the guy up, roughs Gina up, passes her off to Manny. Manny's, I'm going to take her home. Oops. We'll come back to that later.
Yeah, there's a little cutaway to them as well.
Yeah. But, out in the car. And so Tony's alone in the club. And again, Tony has enemies now, because he's gone over Frank's head. So there's some
he kind of dismissed Bernstein too.
Right. Yeah. So there's this is where we get Richard Belzer, which was odd because it's like I'm assuming there's like two parts to this club because you just found Gina on the dance floor. Richard Belzer wasn't the MC of the dancing. But now we've got like a comedian,
Yeah.
So Tony, he's sitting over and granted it's the same spot. It's the same spot.
They just wheeled in a stage.
Yeah. It's like, guys, that's enough of dancing. We'll come back to it.
It's like in wrestling when they lower the steel cage
exactly.
to the ceiling.
Yeah. It's like
they just lower Richard Belzer.
For the next half hour, we've got this going on.
Yeah.
So we cut to some hitmen that are just sitting there with the aforementioned, like, I have a gun on the table, but don't worry because I've got my like handkerchief over it.
Yeah.
But Tony's just kind of sitting in the high deck by himself. And these guys open fire. Luckily though, they open fire just as the like fat suit wearing comedian steps right in front of Tony, giving Tony a chance to escape with just some minor wounds.
Yeah.
But he knows now, okay, Frank, he assumes Frank and Bernstein put the hit on.
Of course. Who else would it be, especially given the timing of everything?
Yeah. And so Frank and Bernstein are sitting in their war room basically when Tony and Manny and the guys walk in. And they weren't expecting them to walk in because they're supposed to be dead. So it comes in and really just a pure show of power, like forces Frank to apologize, to admit it.
Admit that it was him, yeah.
And he's down on all fours, just begging Tony and kill him. So Manny shoots him dead.
Yeah.
Then you've got Bernstein who's over there like, whoa, guys, you just killed a guy right in front of me and I'm a cop. No, they kill Bernstein.
Yep,
basically kill everybody in the room except for I can't think of the guy's name, but just the big mustachioed henchman.
Yeah, he's like an attendant of Frank's.
Yeah, and he's sweating bullets.
Yeah.
Like, and hey Tony, you want a job? Yes.
Yes.
and it's like you have a feeling that's how this lifestyle works. You just kind of leech to the next guy to keep
to stay alive, to keep for self-preservation.
Yeah. And so, like I said, he's killed Frank. He's killed Bernstein. There's nobody in Miami standing in his way.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the head of Miami right now.
So he goes straight to Elvira, like goes to Frank's home.
Yeah.
Like, lets himself in because apparently it's not guarded. And, kind of wakes her up and in so many words says, Frank's dead.
You're with me.
I want you to marry me. Because again, that's how this works. And they do. They get married. And Tony has now elevated himself to the prime Miami distributor of Sosa.
This is also where we see, and you mentioned it before, that blimp.
Yeah.
As he's picking up Elvira, he sees that blimp and the message, the world is yours.
Right. And we just
Super Bowl 18.
exactly eat at Joe's. So we just see a lot of stuff of Tony being Tony, like scene after scene, and it's not a bunch, but it's enough to show that really Tony has caught the car. He's been chasing cars. He's caught one, and we quickly see Tony doesn't know what to do if he's not in pursuit of something.
Yeah.
We
also get that sweet song, push it to the limit.
Oh, I know. I do. Limit.
Let the fire. Yeah.
it's a fun song, but it's so super generic.
It is.
It's so super generic.
Yes. It could be both things. It could be fun and generic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You Got the Touch is no different from Transformers.
You got the
It's so silly. But Push It to the Limit feels like something that should have been Team America.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we've reached a point with Tony where he's crawled himself to the top.
Yeah.
But now that he's at the top,
now what?
Yeah, it kind of gives that same vibe of like somebody who just hit big in the lottery. Of like, I've been working for financial stability, but now that I have it, I don't know how to be stable.
Yeah.
Like I don't, and so that's where Tony's at. He's got the palace, he's got the wife, he's got no direct enemies locally.
Yeah. I absolutely love how you framed it a moment ago. Like he doesn't know what to do with himself if he's not chasing something, if he's not in pursuit of something. Like ambition defines Tony, and when there's nothing left to ambit,
right?
Then what?
Yeah, because he's still a cog in Sosa's wheel. Yeah. Like he doesn't have like he's not Sosa-esque. Like but he's still at a point where I've got nowhere else to climb. We're in 1983. We're literally only 3 years after he came over on the boat. So he climbed in record pace. Yeah. To me, this is where the movie starts to fall apart a little bit. Because again, everything up to this point has been Tony's ambition. And now that he's got everything, now that the world is his.
Yes.
The movie doesn't feel like it doesn't really have a lot. It doesn't have anywhere to go. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff feels somewhat manufactured, especially like the sting operation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the rise and fall story.
It is. Yeah. It is. And so, there's this, we cut to, which just seemed odd to me because we cut to Tony in a room with guys counting money. Okay. For me, it felt like Tony has risen to the top, but he doesn't know how to be on the top.
Yeah.
Tony, he is such a control freak that he has to be there. This is the spot where if like Frank would have never been in this room, Sosa would have never been in this room, because then they're getting tabbed to what's going on. But Tony, he doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah. Well, and he's a man of action. He's like a shark, If he stops moving, then
And so Tony gets busted by some federal agents for, charging him with tax evasion, aside from other things.
That Manny arranged. Manny thought these guys were on the up and up. So now Tony and Manny have beef.
Good point. So there's some more friction. Well, there's fractures anyway, just because Tony has fractured relationships with everybody. It's kind of amazing Manny's lasted this long. But he's facing prison time, and he just responds with, "I got the best lawyer." Like he goes 45 on him, basically. You're not gonna get me. I got the best lawyer. Like when I'm done with you, the lawyer's like, "This is the best I can do, man. Like you're caught. They have it on camera."
Yes, they have evidence.
So Sosa gets wind of it, and Sosa reaches out to Tony. We get kind of a fun scene. Tony goes back to Sosa's, and the way Pacino sits, like everybody else is sitting kind of on the edge of their seat so their posture is better. All these government guys and bureaucratic guys, and Tony's like sunken into the couch. Yeah, because that's just it's a choice, but I liked it. Sosa's basically like, we'll keep you out of prison because there's this journalist that's going on every opportunity around the world he can get to expose the drug trade, which in turn means expose me, because they show like here is Alejandro Sosa. So they're like, Tony, You take this guy out to where he obviously shuts his mouth. We got you. We got your back. Cut to dinner, Tony and Manny and Elvira. And Manny's trying to keep the peace. Obviously, there is no love between Tony and Elvira. Elvira was another one of those things that Tony was pursuing. And now that he has it, he doesn't want it.
Yeah.
And she's never wanted him, but she's wrapped up in the game of, well, I'm the consolation prize to the winner.
She's used to the lifestyle.
Yeah. So they both, all three of them have started down their drug fueled lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't take the advice of don't get high off your own product. Elvira, like Tony he's going after Elvira. She can't even, by talking to Manny right in front of her. She can't even give me a baby. She does so many drugs. She's infertile. She's just a junkie.
Yeah.
And of course she's just so angry at him.
So I think rightly so.
Understandably so.
That's a low.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. So right there in the middle of the restaurant, she just makes a scene.
Yeah.
Splashes water on him, stands up, and just starts calling him out for all the criminal that he is.
Mm-hmm.
To which she runs off. I'm done with you, Tony. And she is. Like, that's it. We never see her in the movie again. Tony is he gives this, well, I'm going to say Tony. Al Pacino gives this very Al Pacino, you looking at the bad guy. Like, you're never
flicks his toothpick at the
camera. Exactly. Hey, Mio.
Gives the server the razor's edge.
I don't understand.
Through a table.
He turned into purple trunks with gold razor blades real quick.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, man.
Hey.
And so, he just makes a scene because he's a joke.
Yeah.
He's a joke. Like, he's the king of his castle, but in that place, nobody knows who he is. He's a joke. So cut to Sosa's plan. We got this journalist and we've got Shadow. Shadow, we see him put a bomb underneath his car.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal was we're going to follow him. And then when he's in front of the UN, we're going to blow his car up.
Yeah. Make a point.
And so he leaves and they're excited that he leaves. And then he whips a U-turn, pulls back in front of the hotel, and his wife and kids get in the car.
Yeah.
And this is where Tony freezes up. Tony's like, no, I thought the wife and kids got in another car. And they're like, I thought they did too. So they're like, no, we can't do this. We can't. And Shadow's like, sure we can't. Like,
this is the job.
This is what we do. We hit the switch and it's all over. And Tony just puts a bullet in his head.
Yeah.
Like, no.
You wonder what's different now, because I think earlier in the movie, I don't know if Tony would have hesitated.
No, I don't think he would have either, because there was something to gain. And here he's just, it's not tactile. Like, there's no bigger seat at the table. There's no money. It's like he's staying out of prison, but that's not a tangible thing to Tony.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a reason why this scene is right after that restaurant scene where Elvira leaves and he's calling her, calls her Baron.
Right.
And then the next scene, he hesitates to kill this journalist's family, including the wife and their children.
Right. And he obviously has an extremely fractured relationship with his own family.
Yeah.
Like, mom has nothing to do with him. Last time he saw Gina, he roughed her up. So it's important, and I think the acting was done well, but at times it felt kind of shoehorned in of like, oh yeah, family matters to Tony. I'm like, oh, it does it?
And then they cut to the Family Matters theme song.
Exactly.
What's Carl Winslow doing there?
I wasn't expected to see him in this. So Tony, by killing Shadow and allowing this journalist to live, he's now on Sosa's bad side. I really don't think Tony thought that far ahead on this one.
Yeah. Tony wasn't thinking on this. He saw the family and he just blacked out.
Yeah. And therefore, because and they found the bomb too. So now security around this journalist is like higher than
so there's no way they're getting a second chance at it.
Yeah. So now Tony's got an enemy again in Sosa. So we ramping up to arguably the only part anyone remembers from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Tony's mom reaches out, and she's like, you got to find Gina. No, nobody knows where Gina's at. She's been gone for days.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows. And Tony's high. Like, he's so doped up. He finally gets an address, and he goes to track down Gina, and the address is Manny's house.
Yeah. Nice home. Very
nice home.
Mm-hmm.
Opens the door, and Manny's happy to see him. Hey,
Yeah.
Tony. Not trying very hard to hide things, but you could tell he's kind of trying to shield a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and Tony hadn't seen Manny in days either.
Yeah, exactly. They both, because he's getting pretty bad. Where's Manny? Why can't we get hold of Manny? Finds Manny. Well, Gina is up on the balcony.
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing that Tony told Manny. She's not for you. And so Tony just, again, pulls a gun out, shoots Manny right in the gut.
Uh-huh.
Just kills him. And that's when Gina comes downstairs. She's just furious. Like,
Well,
we just got married.
Yeah. We were going to surprise you.
Yeah, this was a surprise for you. We love you. We got married. Like, I'm with a good guy now. I'm with a guy that you trust now. Well, not anymore.
Mm-mm.
So Tony basically kidnaps Gina.
Yeah.
Takes her to his estate. And then he starts in on his piles of coke.
Yes. Literally like mounds
mounds
of
of cocaine.
He was he was making shapes out of them, like Close Encounters of the Third Time and the mashed potatoes.
Yeah. He's in the kitchen, like dusting the countertop so that he can like knead bread. It's all out of flour, but I have all this coke.
They do like from the Christmas Story. Show me how Piggy eats.
Exactly. And so Tony's in his office. He's got this wall of cameras.
Yeah.
He's just doing coke. He's lost.
Yeah. He just killed his best friend.
Yeah.
He knows that Sosa's going to come after him.
Right. He's lost. Gina comes in. Of course, and we cut to basically Predator, or not Predator, Commando, as all of Sosa's henchmen, all of them. There's like
all of the henchmen.
All 35 of them are like on the compound now.
Mm-hmm.
They're scaling walls and they're infiltrating. So, and Tony could see them.
Yeah.
But he's not paying attention yet. 'Cause, I mean, we see that they're all over the cameras, but he's so coked out. Then Gina comes in, and she comes in like she's in such shock.
Yeah.
And she's just like, the only reason that you are so possessive of me, Tony, is it's got to be because you want me. Mm-hmm. You want me for yourself. And he's just like, what are you talking about? She's got a gun.
Yeah.
And she starts firing away. It hits his mound of coke, which makes him mad.
That was my coke pile. Come on, Gina.
So she shoots him in the arm, and he's like cowering behind his desk as like one of the henchmen, like the main henchman, because he has sunglasses on
at night.
He's like, he had just come onto the balcony outside of Tony's office. It was going to be an easy kill for him.
Yeah. And
Gina kind of beats him to the punch. So he's kind of shaken by Gina. Gina's, she's got her gun, she's wielding it or whatever. And henchman he just opens fire on Gina.
Yeah.
And, oh no, this wasn't the sunglasses guy. Not yet. He opens fire on Gina, kills her. Of course, now Tony realizes, oh man, I'm under attack.
Yeah.
Sobers up real quick. Takes out the henchman and locks the door. Kind of tends to Gina. Gina's dead.
Yeah.
And so the henchmen all bust in, but Tony's looking at this wall of TVs, goes to his little armory, gets out a grenade launcher.
Yeah. It's similar to you mentioned Predator before.
Yeah.
It's similar to the weapon Schwarzenegger uses.
Yeah.
Fully automatic rifle with a grenade launcher attached to it.
So he's watching the camera that's outside his office door, waiting for everybody to load up around the door. They're getting ready to barricade in, and Tony just blows the door off with the grenade launcher.
Yeah.
And then, we get the aforementioned say hello to my little friend, and then blows them all up. And then he takes his, again, automatic machine gun out onto the balcony and just starts littering everybody.
Yeah.
Just lighting them up. And so the numbers overwhelm him. You know, he hits the deck. He changes clips a couple times. They're just opening fire up on the balcony. Thankfully, one of the fat henchmen was up there on the balcony with him. So Tony's hiding behind him. I'm assuming that this guy's torso is just taking just a barrage of bullets.
Yeah, he's more lead than man.
Yeah, but Tony's safe as he's reloading. You know, he hops up. But again, this is where we see sunglassed henchmen come in through the balcony as he's basically sneaking up behind Tony with a double barrel shotgun.
Yeah,
you know, Tony's fired away. You know,
he's taking bullets.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah.
He's kind of doing like the '80s riddled with bullets chicken dance.
Yeah,
thing.
but he's doing it in a Hulk Hogan way. So he's like not selling. Like
he's no selling.
He pretty much was. Like I'm watching this because I'm watching him get shot, and I'm like, how is he still standing?
Yeah,
like he's still just he's all coked up, but it's all this bravado. And
then he starts shaking his fists, and yeah, then he points at the henchman, and the crowd all goes, "You!"
He just rips the buttons off his shirt.
And Sting would do that too sometimes.
Yeah,
Sting would kind of beat his chest and then just scream.
Yeah, and so Sunglass Henchman comes up behind Tony, shoots him in the back, kills him. He falls off the balcony into the wading pool in his foyer.
A kid's pool filled with cherry Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and camera kind of pans back, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah,
there's no like post scene. There's just Tony's dead. That's the end of the movie.
That's it.
And that's Scarface, guys.
Well, hey, folks, every week Oz and I rate the movie we yap about, in this case, 1983's Scarface. Hey, Oz, how would you rate this flick?
I'm giving this 6 keys.
6 keys?
Yep.
Okay.
What are you giving it?
I'm just giving it, I'm going to do you one better. I'm just giving it all the cocaine.
Thanks.
All of it.
Can't wait.
All the cocaine.
I hope this doesn't damage me in my Google searches.
You're now under federal surveillance.
Yeah, 6 keys followed by cocaine.
All the cocaine.
Yeah.
Oh, folks, Oz and I every week we scour the interweb searching for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones, and we hope they tickle yours as well. And our next comedy segment, Outside Insights. Oz, my friend, what is your outside insight?
I've got 2. They're both short.
Okay.
This first one is a 4-star review by Karsten, left on December 23rd of 23, which the date matters. He goes, lots of snow. I'm calling this a Christmas movie. So Scarface is now a Christmas movie, guys. My second one is left a 4-star review by Amaya, left on March 23rd of 2019. Amaya says, "This makes me feel so good about having no ambition whatsoever. Haha, look at me not getting shot at." Like, so yeah, you could use Scarface as a motivational tool in more ways than one.
Yeah. I mean, lack of ambition means lack of being shot at.
Yeah, it really speaks to everyone. Like, don't pursue your ambition the Tony Montana way, or avoid ambition.
Yeah. However, if you do express ambition, there's a decent chance you're going to get riddled with bullets.
Because who seemed to be very content in their life? Mama Montana.
Yes, she was happy. And she didn't get shot.
She's the only Montana in the movie that didn't get shot.
Yep.
So
I don't think Hannah took any bullets either.
No, I don't think so. Or Montana Max.
Montana Max, the Tiny Toons.
Yeah, he had all the money. He just didn't. He didn't have the drugs to.
Yeah, he just didn't have the pile of cocaine.
That's right. It's Tony Montana Max.
Montana Max.
What are your outside insights?
I have 2 as well. They're both from the Internet Movie Database, and they're both 10 out of 10s. The first one, left in December of 2003, was left by Peter the Pimp, in all caps. Okay. I'm assuming someone else bestowed that title to him.
Yeah, it's probably his little brother or something, because he had a girlfriend once. You're such a pimp, Peter.
Yeah, 11-year-old to 15-year-old.
Yeah.
The subject line, the greatest movie ever. So, and I will say, before I start reading here, I'm guessing that at the time this movie was not in IMDb's top 250, or this person just simply didn't see it.
Fair enough.
Hands down, this movie is unbelievable. The fact that it isn't in the top 250 is a disgrace. Al Pacino gives the performance of 1,000 lifetimes in this one. Tony Montana equals, there's the equal side,
Yeah.
greatest character ever. Pacino's performance equals best ever. Scarface equals best movie ever. Can you see a pattern developing?
Yeah. It's still not in the top 250.
It's not?
No, it's only an
Okay.
8.3.
My second one was left in June of 2005.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's 102. Never mind. I skipped past it.
Left by Charles Broski. I'm guessing that's a distant relative of Charles Bronson.
Probably.
Just incredible. This is by far the best movie I have ever watched in my life. Al Pacino has got to be the best actor. The way he plays Tony, you would never think he was anything but a Cuban refugee. I can watch this movie every day and not get bored of it. I also don't understand Tony's mom. Why would she turn her only son away? No matter what he has done, you don't turn away a child, especially when he throws that kind of cash at you.
Oh,
Hell,
Lord.
I would love for my kid to give that to me, regardless of how they got it. To sum it up, this was an absolute masterpiece. No other movie could be better than this. They just don't make movies like this anymore.
Oh, my.
Thank you, Charles Broski.
Yeah. God, I wish my kids would get into drugs.
Especially when they're throwing that kind of cash at you.
Right? Don't turn a kid away when he can afford it.
Yeah. Ambition, folks.
Yeah, ambition.
Ambition.
Yeah.
Just dodge the bullets.
Yeah, guys.
just dodge the bullets.
Oh, my.
All right, folks, it's that point in the show you've all been waiting for, the Let's Talk About Flicks signature segment, the 3-2-1, in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 huh about this week's movie, Scarface. Oz, what are your 3 goods?
My first one is I love opening text.
Oh, that's one of my possibilities.
I figured it would. I love it. When I saw it up there, I was like, this just smells like an 80s movie.
Yes, treat me like I'm dumb.
That's right. I love it. 2, and I mentioned it already, I am a big Giorgio Moroder fan.
Yes.
I do appreciate him being like, I love the soundtrack to this. I love the score to this movie. And so that's my second good. And 3, this movie's got style. I'm not going to deny it. I give a lot of that credit to De Palma and the crew. De Palma's movies always have a style to them. I don't think this is Brian De Palma's masterpiece. I've seen other De Palma movies I personally like better. Carrie being one of them.
Sure. I always forget that De Palma did Carrie.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's a good movie. But I just like I like other De Palma films above this one. Even some of those just kind of hokey, like Body Double, and like just some of those, they feel kind of sleazy, but they a little bit more of a tighter story. But the movie's got style. I'm not denying that. A lot of it is De Palma. A lot of it's Miami. A lot of it's the 80s. Just if it would have been hard not to have a stylistic movie set in this location at this time frame. Like, you really would have dropped the ball if you couldn't figure out how to have a vibe. So those are my 3 goods. What do you got?
Although we didn't see Kung Fury in this movie, which was also set in early to mid 80s Miami.
That's true. That was North Miami, probably.
Oh, okay.
Different precinct.
This is South Miami.
Yeah,
got it.
It's different precinct.
All right, my first good, and this is similar to one of yours. De Palma is just such a great storyteller. I agree with you that you could argue that the plot itself in this movie is a little thin because it's so much tone and character, but just the storytelling. And I kind of mentioned this before. This movie's almost 3 hours long, and to me, it didn't feel like a 3-hour watch.
No,
and I had to watch this movie in chunks.
I
usually do.
I did too.
And I found myself really wanting to get back to it.
Good.
Like, what's going to happen next to these characters? And so I tip my cap to De Palma and as well as Oliver Stone, just for kind of crafting the narrative, as well as some of the visual storytelling. You mentioned like outside the hotel earlier in the film too. My second good, let's go with I really like the restaurant scene. It was kind of the beginning of Act 3, and it really set the tone for like the true, because there was already writing on the wall that things weren't going well, but this scene is when things really went from bad to worse.
Right.
Elvira leaves his beef with Manny comes up, because Manny was the one who brought in the Fed, thinking that
Right.
this was a good business contact, and Tony just shows his disdain for the other patrons there, like his disgust for them. Like, I'm better than you. How dare you look at me and judge
Right.
me? I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my second. And let's go with I'm gonna go with Tony's mom for the last one. She could have just accepted that money and just lived a healthy, wealthy enough lifestyle without any concerns. And no, her pride, her sense
she
of
rose above it,
morality.
and
Yeah. She knew, like, she did her best to keep Gino away from him. Ultimately didn't work, but she knew what would happen if Gina got sucked into it, and
it happened.
She did. So
I see Mama Montana just sitting there. Both of her kids dying the same night. She gets word from the police. She's just like, I told
them.
not even sad.
Just told them.
Told them so. Should have listened to their mother.
Yep. Stew's boiling. Got to go take care of that.
You guys want one?
So yeah, that's my three goods. Oz, what are your two bads?
My first one, I'm not much of a Pacino fan. I'm just I recognize his contributions. I'm perfectly fine. Honestly, my favorite Pacino was Godfather Pacino.
Yeah.
Because
more understated.
Yeah, because it's like, I feel like it's the only time when he's acting.
Yeah.
Pacino, to me, I get the draw, but he falls into a category of actor Anthony Hopkins, that I recognize as being talented. I'm not denying his talent, but I feel it's kind of one trick pony. I think that there's almost like three categories of there's more. I mean, I'm not compartmentalizing all thespians into three categories, but I feel like there's those actors that can deliver. Your Heath Ledgers, your Philip Seymour Hoffmans, your Daniel Day-Lewis,
Jason Biggs.
Exactly. Those guys.
Yeah.
Then there's your Pacinos, your Anthony Hopkins, your even on a smaller scale, like a Robert Loggia. Everything's Jason Biggs again. And then there's that caliber that is like your Denzel Washington, who's the same guy in every role he's in. Like he gets awards credit for Training Day because he wasn't Denzel Washington in that movie. It's like, and I personally, like, I put some of De Niro's work in that category. Like you can't tell me that Taxi Driver De Niro and Meet the Parents De Niro is the same dedication to the acting field.
It's Travis Bickle grown up.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's not this there. And I think it comes with success. It comes with comfortability, and that's fine. Like, that perfectly fine. I'm not much of a Pacino fan. He just takes such big bites.
Yeah.
And
I know this performance kind of and I mentioned Anthony Hopkins a moment ago, but like it reminds me of again, we did Legends of the Fall a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And Anthony Hopkins in that movie, and even to a degree, some parts in Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's just I think sometimes we confuse in like the more intense you are, the louder you are, the bigger you are, the better actor you are.
Exactly. Like, look at all the energy I'm bringing here.
Yes.
Like, that's not the same, which is why, a movie like Silence of the Lambs works. Yeah. Because you are channeling that energy in a different direction. You're not being loud and boisterous and screaming. It's channeled. Yeah. And so, to be fair, I haven't seen a ton of Pacino stuff outside of The Godfather, this Devil's Advocate, but there's so much energy there. Maybe I need to watch more early Pacino stuff to
it could be exhausting.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel when you take an exhausting performance across a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
it's a lot of opportunity for exhaustion.
It kind of reflect just a couple weeks back to another ouch movie, Whiplash.
Yeah.
And keep going. Give me a moment.
Yeah. With J.K. Simmons of just that performance it's so intense that it's just a lot there. And it's like, but that's not J.K. Simmons in every role, thankfully. But yeah, it is what it is. And that's my first bad. There's not a lot of bad about this movie. It's a good movie. But my first one is I'm just not a big Pacino fan. And especially this being that celebrated performance of like, it's Al Pacino and Scarface. It's like, it's a lot.
I don't know what happened to my vocal cords there for a moment. But I had brought up J.K. Simmons. And one of the reasons I like that performance in Whiplash, because as intense as he was, there was a couple little moments. Like there was the moment where he was talking to his buddy's kid in the hallway.
Yeah.
It's like that character could turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah. And when he was sitting at the table talking with, with whatever the main character's name is.
Yeah.
Like
after
that little like jazzy bar scene.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a switch that he can flip. It's not just pure energy.
Yeah.
Going out there. My second bad is there is no depth to any character in this movie.
Oh, no.
At all. And so to play it like this big drama and it's really just everything's face value. I mean, from the start, like Tony's a bad apple. Manny's going to try his best. Like it's just, it's, there's no arc. There's no depth to any character in this movie.
Yeah,
and
it is pretty predictable.
And so that's my second bad. It's just that predictability of the characters. The only time you could argue it is when Tony stops the hit on the journalist, but that almost seemed confusing. Like you had to really think it through. Like, why all of a sudden do you have a moral compass? And so that's my second bad. What do you got for your bads?
I'll kind of take your Pacino just in a slightly different direction. I'll state the obvious: the casting of Al Pacino and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio as Cubans.
You had Luis Guzman right there.
Luis Guzman is Tony Montana.
Matt Berry is Tony Montana. We talked about it last week.
Yeah,
but
right.
Jackie Daytona.
Jackie Daytona. Regular human man, Jackie Daytona. I love that. But yeah, I mean, they're not Cuban. They're of Italian descent. I think movies are trying to do better. And Hollywood in general, I think, is trying to do better with that. Although, I mean, I'm not going to get into this, but I'm curious to see if any of the DEI pushback these days is going to impact that casting. But yeah, that's my first bad. Just try to cast people who are of the descent.
Because I just looked up like Cuban actors.
Yeah.
Okay. Andy Garcia is a Cuban actor. Stephen Bauer is a Cuban actor, but they had him,
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through. Of course, you can't put Daisy Fuentes in this movie.
Daisy Fuentes as Tony Montana.
You can't put Cameron Diaz in this movie. But you've got. Granted, Desi Arnaz is too old at this point, but
Desi Arnaz as Gina.
But it's like I could see Andy Garcia.
Yeah, I totally could.
I could see Andy Garcia in this. I could see Oscar Nunez in this movie.
Oscar Nunez. He's almost 70 years old.
I know.
He looks like he's 40.
I know. Good for him.
Yeah. So that's my first bad. My second is this movie is really misogynistic and really homophobic.
Did we watch the same movie?
So like even one of the very first scenes, the immigration officials, like they ask Tony, like, "Are you homosexual?
Yeah.
Do you dress in drag?"
Yeah.
Like, what does that have to do with anything?
That's what he says too.
Yeah. So it just, yeah. Again, it's era,
Right.
culture, but doesn't excuse it. So
Right.
be better. Yep. All right. Hey, Oz, what's your huh?
I've got two. My first one is more serious than my second one.
Got it. Okay.
But throughout the entire movie, it's my huh is why does Manny always seem to immediately have a better solution to whatever Tony is dealing with? It seems like Tony's at some predicament, and then Manny's right there in his ear. You know, Tony, we could do this and that. And it's like, why didn't you offer those suggestions before the predicament became a predicament?
Yeah.
You always seem to have like the next step ready.
Yeah, your timing could be a little better, Manny.
It's my artificial huh. My real huh is, how long does it take to fill that bathtub? And does the water stay warm while you're filling the bathtub?
That huge bathtub,
that massive bathtub.
Yes, yeah. That's a good point,
because he's sunken down into it. Like it's up to, so it's like, how long does it take to fill that bathtub? How much bubble bath do you need for that bathtub?
That's a lot of Johnson & Johnson no tears bubble bath.
Like there's hot tubs, and then there's this thing. This thing is massive.
Yeah, it's like an aquarium.
Yeah, and it's as I'm watching and they're panning back and they're showing him as he's yelling at Elvira as she's stormed off again, and hey, get back here, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, how long did it take to fill that tub? Like Tony Tony gets up at 4 he gets up at 7 a.m. because he wants to take a bath at 1. First thing he does
closely, there's 6 different garden hoses running
exactly.
Into it.
First thing he does is he wakes up in the morning. I'm going to take a bath this afternoon, so I'm going to turn the water on now.
Goes outside to the outside spigot, turns it on.
Exactly. It's got to boil water because he runs the hot water heater.
He's just walking back and forth with like a hat, like with a little boiling pot of water.
Exactly.
There's just rotating people coming in.
Just kettle upon kettle upon kettle. Yeah. So how long does it take to fill that bathtub?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So what do you got for huh?
I also have 2, and I will let you pick which one you want to use. The first one I will say is for a movie like this, with all the violence and all the language and all the cocaine, we only saw 1 pair of boobs.
So I don't even remember it.
Yeah, I think there was a woman with Manny at one point.
Oh, Mama Montana.
It was not. It was not Mama Montana. She just came to the door, open bathrobe. Hey, son, come on.
Tony, you need to go find Gina.
What was that, Mom? But yeah, I was, and I bring that up, not that I needed to see more boobs, but like in a movie that is this over the top with everything else.
Oh, it's extreme.
And especially this lifestyle.
Yeah.
1 pair of boobs. Okay.
And
yay, Hollywood?
Yeah, I guess. And another odd part is, like, again, with this lifestyle, we never see Tony with a woman.
Yeah. Like there's no intimate moments even between him and Elvira.
No, like they're never together. He's even pre-Elvira. He's never with a woman.
Well, again, it's kind of going into the themes. It's more about the pursuit.
Yeah, exactly. And
it is the achievement.
Well, and again, those like Manny, that's all Manny wanted.
Yeah.
And he had the looks for it. He just didn't have the right approach.
Hey, Stephen Bauer.
And but it's like, for Tony, it's like that's not what he was interested in. I want money, I want power.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want women yet. And then Elvira, and he's like, but I just want Elvira. I don't want to have her. I just want her.
Yes. My other huh that I'll throw out there is again, I think this is towards the end of Act 1.
Mm-hmm.
Manny and Tony are at some kind of I'll say like it's almost kind of like a country club or something like that in a way. And Manny sees a blonde and he goes up to hit on her, and Tony stops and talks to a child.
Yeah.
And tells, I think it's a couple of kids, tells him, hey, watch what happens.
Yeah.
And the mom is right there.
Totally fine with it.
And does not bat an eye that this strange man,
foreign man, is
talking to her kids. Hey, what look at what happens to this other man as he's hitting on this woman.
Yeah.
And he even like touches him. He like puts his hand on like one of their shoulders or something. Like, does the mom not have a problem with this?
I agree. I thought that scene was odd to me. Like, not the Manny part of it, but the Tony of like, I'm just gonna sit right here with these kids and chat it up. Like,
So, and the mom was fine with it.
Yeah, she's like, okay, that's fine.
Just I'll go back to my Danielle Steele novel.
Right.
So
I agree.
I'll let you pick which
It'll probably be Curtis wants to know where's all the boobs.
Yes, that's what it should say.
That's the
verbatim. Curtis wants more boobs. Oog oog.
Yeah, Curtis wants to know where are the boobs.
Yes, where may I find more boobs? Well, hey, that's Scarface.
We have one movie left for Ouch Month. What is it?
We do have one more, and this would hurt.
This would hurt. Yes,
I think as we age, it will hurt more,
and it's more likely.
It's more likely. It's more terrifying.
Go ahead, and then I'll give my little anecdote about it.
Have you seen the movie Thelma yet? With June Squibb?
I'm not.
What the title of this next movie happens in Thelma, and her character's in her 90s, and it's meant to be like, this is a hard scene. So, we got one movie left in Ouch Month. We are going back to 1993 for this one, Oz.
Mm-hmm.
The Michael Douglas vehicle falling down.
That hurts.
It does. It does. Ouch to fall down.
We went and watched a high school basketball game last night, and it was aggressively physical, not dirty, but just both teams playing aggressively.
Yeah,
a lot of boys hitting the floor, and my wife and I were just like, "Ooh, I'd still be there." Like,
I ain't getting up for a while
to watch these 16-year-old boys just hop up and run back down court. It's like, you see that about little kids all the time. You see like toddlers fall over, and you're like, well, they're pretty close to the ground anyway.
They don't have as far to go.
Yeah, the gravity's not that big of an impact on them. They're so close to the ground. But yeah, we're watching these 16-year-old boys like just fall to the floor and then hop up to go play defense, and we're just like, just shoot over me. Like, I'm still on the ground at that one. So it's like, they're gonna be. I bet there's some sore boys today, because it was a pretty like aggressively physical game. So, but yeah, falling down for next week. I've not seen this movie before.
I watched it last week, and it was a first time viewing for me. I have a lot. I got a feeling this movie is going to spark a lot of conversation.
Okay,
I will just simply.
That's good, because that's what the whole point of the
that's the whole point of the podcast. Yeah, is to talk.
Hey guys,
let's talk about flicks. Let's stare.
Yeah, don't have a lot to say this week. Sorry.
Let's not talk about flicks.
Right. So Falling Down will be the movie for next week. Social media wise, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Catch us on the shorts. Like, subscribe. Hit the notification, so blah blah blah. You don't miss a single moment of Let's Talk About Flicks. But
Shout out to Chicago Indie Critics.
We just wrapped up our award season, and so we were voting members in that regard. So it was fun to play that part again this year of voting for actual awards that are going to actual people. Yeah,
very humbling, I will say.
Yeah, and then they're compiling the responses from the award winners, and I was reading them this morning. I was like, because at the end of it all, like, we're all just people. Like, and I love that about the world is, that we're all just human beings. Some of us have cooler jobs than others. And I think it's great when we recognize and praise those that have done a good job at the job that they're doing. And so it would be cool if there were more industries that did that, but it is what it is. And so it was fun to say. It was like any vote too. It's fun when the things I voted for won, because it's like, especially with how little current stuff I watch.
There's something validating about that.
That it's just like, I guess I wasn't blowing.
Other people agree. Yeah,
I wasn't blowing smoke. I really thought Demi Moore should have won for The Substance, and she did. So
I will also say shout out to Patreon subscriber Don S. Just for how his leadership and just his efforts.
Yes, I agree. So thank you, Don, and all members of the Chicago Indie Critics that for the jobs that you do. I would say for listening to our podcast, but let's not kid ourselves. We know Don's probably the only one that does. So
no, they watch the podcast.
That's true.
They mute it, but they watch it.
They study the podcast. Is what they do. So, but no, that's wraps up another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks. We will be back next week to wrap up Ouch Month and reveal February's theme, which it's wife's choice, guys. Like it's been wife's
February.
It's been wife's choice for the last 3 years. This is our 4th year of wife's choice month. But it's also 4 movies I've never seen before.
I've seen 2 of them.
Yeah, your 2?
Yes, my 2.
Yeah, it's 4 movies that I have not seen before. So, for another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
We'll see you guys next week.